demonstrate a few methods for snaring. I'm going to show you how that's done. I'm going to come back in a few days, see if we caught something. I got the puppies with me. Enjoy this beautiful winter day. I'm going to set out some snares and see if I can get a rabbit or two. Come along, let's do this. Let's see if I can snare some rabbits. I'm going to say there's at least 3 feet of snow. Probably more like 4 feet of snow. Even with my snowshoes, I'm just punching over a feet deep in the snow. The dogs are having a hard time. Now I randomly picked a spot off a forestry road where I was able to pull off and park, and then I pulled my sleigh in, but then I left it behind to go in more of a scouting mission. And then at one point I actually left the camera behind, continued scouting down this trail here. And I see a lot of rabbit tracks, but they're very random, and that's terrible. Terrible for me. What I'm looking for is a trail, and unfortunately my deficit is we just got a dumping of snow 2 days ago, so the existing trails that the rabbits were running are all snow covered and I'm not identifying them. I identified 2 possible trails, and there was a little bit of foot traffic from the rabbits in 2 locations where you can kind of see a trail snaking through the forest. I'm only going to set out a few snares. If I catch 1 or 2, that'd be great. If not, so be it. Whew, I'm overheating. So I made it back. I went to the sleigh and pulled the sleigh in most of the ways, and because I got my supplies in there. Also, I opted to leave Lexi and Riley back at the truck. Lexi was having a hard time in this deep snow, so I brought him back, and I don't want him to be in my way as I set up my snares. I'm going to show you now how we're going to do this. I got one area I'm going to target. It appears to be an old trail. Hopefully, because there's multiple tracks going into this one spot, and it appears to be a trail. I can kind of see it going through the forest. But I'm going to corral these rabbits. I'm going to put in a very long fence. I'll show you all the process. I'm going to clip off some dead branches. I'm going to fence it off. Now, I said dead, and it's important that you use dead twigs when you're fencing or corralling your rabbits. If you want to create a choke point, you don't want to use this stuff right here. This is nice juicy saplings. That's what they eat. They eat the bark off of these things, so you don't want to fence using this stuff because they're liable to stop and eat your fence and then take off in another direction. Snaring wire is this right here. Right, this is brass wire. Just go to your local hardware store and ask for snare wire. Like that, right? And then I also have with me my trusty Leatherman multi-tool, right? So I can clip my snare. So I'm going to put my snare probably on that limb that right there, or maybe on that bigger tree. And let's see here. I'm on that bigger tree right there, and then fence it off so they're pushed into the snare. Alright, so I figured out the length that I want. Just simply slip it through the eyelet, bring it around, make a nice round like that. You want it about the size of a bit bigger than the size of a tennis ball, something like that. Right. You notice I put my fist through it, kind of like just gauging myself. Alright, let's put this onto a branch. So I'm going to give it 2 loops around my branch, and then give it a good twist but I want it to be a tight twist, and I want it to be at least half a dozen twists. I'm going probably 8 or 9 here, like that. Now, you see my trail is right here. I'm going off a little bit. I go like that. That's where I want it. That's where I'm going to aim. Now I'm going to create fences both sides here so that the rabbits are forced to come through here. Alright, here's another method. You see I got my snare attached to a branch. Now this is a big, long, beefy branch, and I've already got the spot that I want to put this, and I've already jammed it in the snow. So this branch will be in the snow 3 feet. And this method here, where you have, this is not a rotten branch, this is a piece of a limb off of a jack pine, and I can just stick this in the snow. In my case here, I got 4 feet of snow. I can do that. Now what's going to happen is, if you have a rabbit that is strong enough to take off with your branch, right, versus being attached to an actual tree, it doesn't matter. The odds of a rabbit running off with this is pretty slim, but let's say you have a smaller one and it runs off. That's also good, because eventually that branch is going to get tangled up in the forest. You're going to get wedged against trees and other shrubs and whatever, and that's the point where the rabbit's going to come to his demise. Now, the only problem with that is when you go and your snare is missing, you have to go chase down your snare. In the deep snow, like in the forest like I got here, that could be a bit of a challenge, but that is certainly another method that could be done. This is usually done when you don't have a suitable tree to put your snare on. So I'm going to put him right, stick him in the snow. I'm going to fence on each side, and I'm going to fence going up to a couple of those trees over here. Alright, so I got another setup right there, and that snare in particular, he's hanging from a branch that's going across overhead. That's another good method, is to have your snare hanging down from an overhead branch that crosses the trail. And then, as you can see, I fenced the crap out of it, bunch of dead branches everywhere, and that's to try to lure them into that one opening. I didn't count my snares, but I probably got half a dozen out there. And now it's time to enjoy some soup. My wife's homemade beef noodle soup, absolutely delicious. So the only thing left to do now is we wait. I'll be back in a couple of days to pull my snares out, because you certainly don't want to leave them out. Well, it's day 2. I'm back. It's time to go check on my snares. And unfortunately, it snowed another 2-3 inches since I was here last. And I say unfortunately because that means my snares got at least partially buried. And when your snares get partially buried, well, the odds of snaring a rabbit are pretty slim. So I'm not going to be able to come here over and over and over and over again. So today I'm pulling my snares whether I catch something or not. My first snare is just off to the side right here. Let's go check it out. Come here, get out of there. A rabbit went down the trail and I had this snare in a perfect spot, but because it snowed, the rabbit actually stepped on top of my snare. As you can see, as I'm pulling it out of the snow, it walked right over top. If it wouldn't have snowed, the rabbit would have gotten caught in that snare. Pretty sure it would have. So I missed this one. Let's move on to the next one. So let's take this snare out and we'll move on to the next snare, see what it has to offer. Okay, snare number 2. We have success. So I have a rabbit in my snare. He's dispatched. And it snowed over top of him. So just a perfect example. This rabbit that I got in this snare here, he got caught in this snare before the snow fell. So he didn't do like the other rabbits on my last snare where they stepped on top of it. He actually got himself caught. See where Riley is? Riley is moving towards it right now. And that rabbit is in the snow just in front of Riley. And he's picking, see Riley looks like he's smelling the scent of that rabbit, like the trail. Let's zoom in and I'll show you. Right there, he just found it. Good boy, Riley. Good boy, you found that rabbit. Certain content YouTube will deem shocking, offensive. They'll use these kinds of words, and I'm very cautious about that because then I get demonetized. Also, then my content doesn't get presented to as wide of audience because I'm kind of like marked, and this is really bad for the channel. Okay, so what I've done is I hung the rabbit in the tree, in a limb that's overhanging the trail, and I go get the other snares. And that way there when I come back I'm just going to retrieve my rabbit when I get back. Okay, let's see if we get some more rabbits out here. Alright, snare number 3 that I'm checking, and this is a very common occurrence with snaring rabbits. Sometimes when you snare a rabbit, come here Riley, sometimes when you get a rabbit caught in a snare, that rabbit will be a strong rabbit and he'll fight it. And he'll actually get out and he'll snap your snare and he'll get away. And I have that exact situation happen to me right now on snare number 3. Alright, so right there, I'm going to zoom in. There's my wire attached to the tree. You can see it's pulled right tight. And it comes down. And that's the end of the wire right there in the center of the screen. So a rabbit got caught in the snare and he snapped that wire. Now if I zoom out, you can see the snow is all packed down all the way around it, all the way around the tree. The snow is all packed down. So he got caught in that snare and he ran and he managed to snap it. That's very common. Some rabbits are bigger than others and stronger than others, and that one managed to get away. So I'm going to go retrieve whatever's left of that wire. I'm going to move on to snare number 4. Alright, snare number 4, right down in there. There is the snare, and he is untouched, undisturbed. and there's no tracks. The rabbits didn't come through here at all since the snow fell, that is. Just remember, take out your snares, take out your trash. Well, I have retrieved my 5th and final snare. My target was to have 2 rabbits. Having 1 is suitable for me. I'm very happy with that. My wife makes the most amazing homemade beans, and this rabbit is gonna go in the pot. As far as rabbits are concerned, from here on, we'll just enjoy them from the living room window. Thanks everybody. I'll catch you on the next one.